welcome to Bitstorm, a comedy game design podcast by two guys who know nothing about comedy nor game design. I'm Ben Slinger. With me, as always, is Trevor Scott.
Hello.
Hello, and we're doing another truncated half episode today so that we can work on our other stuff. So let's get into it. I think just clicking some pictures.
Yeah, so Click Pictures, a game where we each have a random word generated on the count of 3 to 1 click. We're going to get some words, throw them at each other, and, yeah, just come up with a game design.
That's right. Let's do it. 3, 2, 1, click.
Alarmed appendix.
Drowned sundry.
Ooh. What would happen if you were on a camping trip and you went into appendicitis?
Okay.
You had appendicitis and you're miles away from everywhere. There's no technology.
I'd probably be alarmed.
Yes. My thought is, what if it's this sort of two-person journey that, like, you've got your main character who is literally the spouse of the person who's got the appendicitis, and they're out there trying to get the person back. Like, I'm thinking it could be kind of like a Firewatch sort of thing where, you know, it starts off quite nice and, you know, you're having a little bit of a chat around the campfire and all this sort of stuff, and then they end up in severe pain. And
so what if, I like that idea. What if it's not just appendicitis that can happen? What if you essentially, it is a camping trip that you're on. Something happens, you find yourself lost out there, and then the game is you together finding your way back. You can't leave the other one behind, like you are partners, you are spouses. You're going to save them no matter what. But it's procedurally generated, and there's all sorts of, like, afflictions that can happen.
That's like, take the scope and just explode it by 1,000, and we could never make something like
fine.
this.
We're not trying to build it. We're trying to come up with the design for it. We're not actually going to build it. No, because I'm almost thinking like almost an Oregon Trail sort of vibe in a way, where it's the sort of procedurally generated, like you're always trying to make your way out of this forest, but the things that can happen, they'll have a real effect on the game, right? You could lose a leg in a bear trap, right? You fall into a bear trap. Who could lose a leg? Either of you.
Okay. So, are you talking about this as a co-op game, or?
No. Well, no. I think but I think you can control, like you can switch between them.
Okay.
Where I think the fun and challenge will kind of come from then is, okay, they've got a thing called a bear trap. All right, you need to like tourniquet it. You need to. Now you're slowed down unless you can like fucking craft a stretcher or something for them, or like they can walk on it, but you're slower. So if you're having to hunt for things, like you're the one, like it's limiting you in these different ways. Because I kind of just love the idea of by the time you finally get out of this forest, like each of you are just like completely fucked up in all these different ways.
Yeah, but. I mean, I suppose if you started putting some storylets in and that sort of stuff, like being able to, like, depending on what happens along the way, you get little things.
I think you'd want to.
That could be kind of fun, but I like the idea of having that walking sim of there's, like, one story going on here, and it's sort of like you can almost allude to the fact that before this trip, like, there was some trouble in your marriage, but it's, like, going through this thing together.
Yeah, I mean that's fine. In that you want to tell a specific narrative.
I know it's that we quite often go down this path of not doing narrative.
I mean, sometimes.
and going down, yeah, we're just going to put some procedural generation into this. And I kind of like the idea was coming
fine.
One of us
had my say.
I had my say, and now we vote on it.
More. Yeah, as you all know, text Bitstorm1 if you like my idea. Text Bitstorm 2 if you like Trevor's idea, and next week we will announce the winner.
You know what? We've got a little bit of time. Let's go down each of these paths.
Yeah. Sure.
Which one would you like to do first?
I don't care. It's fine either way.
We said more about yours, so let's continue with yours for a little bit.
Okay, we'll wrap mine up at least. So yes, I do think like storylets is an interesting idea because then we can have conditions on those, right?
Yeah.
So if someone has been caught in a bear trap, it's like, oh, here's 4 different events.
Oh, should we quickly explain what a storylet is?
Yeah. So for those who haven't listened before or who haven't come across the term, a storylet is generally kind of a somewhat self-contained piece of content in a game like this, piece of story in a game like this that will have particular conditions as to when it can be triggered so that it will make sense based on prior things that can happen. And then the storylet itself can then also essentially change the state of the game. So it may be that, like, if you've got yourself caught in a bear trap, there's now a particular storylet that becomes available, which might mean you run into someone who tells you the herbs to, like, fix it up, and now you can walk on that leg again and heal it up. Or it may be one that, because you're bleeding from the leg, you come across a mountain lion and you've got the potential to die based on how well you play out that piece of content. That sort of thing. So yeah, I think for a game like this, I like that idea of how that could play out with the variety of different things that could happen, particularly with both of you then as well. Like, you could have some very specific storylets if you wanted to bring that in of, both of you being sick in some way or afflicted in some way, and that gives you different options.
Yeah. What I do like about this particular method that we're sort of going down right now is you could have something like a massive storm is coming in, so therefore, get into this cave over here. Oh, look, there's a bear, sort of thing.
Well, that's it. And the benefit of storylets then in a thing like that is you can kind of write these storylet chains in a way where, okay, there are only specific preconditions that might trigger, that you have to be in a cave to trigger any of the cave ones, but then you can expand upon that indefinitely, essentially, of, let's put more cave content in the game because, or let's just put more regular storylets in the game that could potentially end up with you being in a cave. You can really tweak that in such an interesting way to then drive the possibilities.
Yeah. I mean, I'm imagining that every playthrough is going to be completely, feel like it could go anywhere.
Yeah.
Even if you end up in the cave, you could find the ancient treasure of, Curly Joe or whatever his name is. And then, the next time you go over around the same area and it's like, oh, there's a river there now. And it's like, you follow the river. And
the thing is, you can also bring in some of the narrative stuff, right? Like, even if you've got a narrative that you want to get across in some way, or multiple narratives for that matter, or branching narratives, those can have preconditions too. Like, and you can have storylets within storylets, right? Like, anytime you make camp, you can, get a set of narrative storylets that, based on where your relationship is at, or whether you've had a particular conversation about your kids or whatever, that then progresses that narrative, maybe lets you choose different options and branch, which then essentially opens up the possibility of other storylets in the conversation. And also, and again, lets you do things like, you're in the cave, here's some specific ones about how, one of them is scared of the dark, and so that actually gives you an opportunity to bond again, remember about that, have a memory that brings you closer together in the moment or whatever, and raises your relationship status up by 10%. In the background, you don't have to show that, but then that allows for
that whole telltale thing of Kenneth will remember that.
Kenneth will remember that. But like that could allow for those multiple endings, right? Then, like if you've made enough choices via the narrative storylets in the different varying situations that you might have come to get your, like, to rekindle your relationship back up to 100%, then now there's storylets for the ending that become possible.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't know. I think there's some fun potential there for doing that, and I think a forest leaves it wide open for a lot of these could just take place in a very generic forest scene, right?
Yeah.
You're in the next area and here's some stuff that happens, and then you have transitional scenes where it is into a cave or onto a river. Like you could have whole sections where you're like going down the river on a raft or something. And now that opens up a whole lot of other adventures and other content that you could add in there.
You mentioned on a raft on a river, and it reminded me of a game that we came up with many, many years ago where you literally only had like 6 bullets in a gun, and you had to choose when to actually use
where
them.
to shoot those bullets. I do remember that. That was a good one.
And I'm like, oh my god, we've gone almost everywhere in these last 300 episodes.
We've been everywhere, man.
When we're talking storylets, I was just thinking about our Roadhouse game, of which, like, that...
It was one of the early... Like, we haven't done a lot of storylet stuff. That was when we brought in storylets a few times. But anyway, now, if we were going down a more pure narrative track of this, where it is more, like you said, Firewatchy...
Yeah.
So...
Walking sim sort of thing, where... One of the things I loved about Firewatch was the very start where you walked and you answered like questions about your character, and then that sort of informed conversations that happened throughout the game, and actually made your character kind of feel lived in. And it wasn't much in the way of a questionnaire. It didn't have much, but it had enough to make it feel like, oh, my choices did matter to the conversations that we had in here. And you could almost do something similar, not exactly the same. It's you could almost do it as like you and your wife are doing like one of those Cosmo quizzes where she, and it's like, how's that this and. Or,
that could be because I'm picturing that you maybe have sort of a scene to introduce the characters, and you could have that there before the appendicitis hits.
Exactly.
Where you just sort of around the campfire, and that could really set the... Because if you did want some branching there, or some options for, maybe there are a few different places that this relationship can be in to begin with. That could come out of a quiz like that. She's asking you the questions, and you get an actual score at the end of like where your relationship scores or something, or and where you score as a husband, or I don't know.
I mean, the cool thing is you could also easily do it the other way. Like you could choose to be, just one of the characters in the game, and the other person is asking the questions of your character. It doesn't have to be either way, and whichever character you are, it's the other one who ends up getting sick. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. As in, you could say you could play either side of the relationship, for sure.
I mean, I'm thinking back to one of the first games that I can think of that did that sort of thing, where you could play either character, and it didn't really change much of the story, and that was Alone in the Dark. I think about. Back to that, how you had, it was a slight change in the story, but other than that, it was like, it's the exact same game, stuff is happening, it's...
Yeah, essentially just a model swap.
With a slight, change in the actual, in the story.
Well, that can be a good way to just give some flexibility.
Yeah.
And representation, even just like let the player play who they're more comfortable with.
but also the idea of having, you know, there's one definite thing of there's a medical emergency. You know what that medical emergency is, and appendicitis, as much as, you know, people sort of go, oh, you've had your appendix out and that sort of stuff. It's a pretty serious thing, because if you don't get it treated, you can die of sepsis and all this sort of stuff. So it's like you're on a time limit at that point. Like, so
do you think we actually put a time clock on the game then? Or is it more about
I think you can
narratively
fail. I think
you can fail by not...
You can fail by, like, making the wrong decisions and that sort of stuff, and it's you can maybe...
Right. Okay, I like the idea of maybe it's not a literal ticking clock throughout the whole game necessarily. Well, you could still.
Yeah,
but
you could.
A bad decision will knock, like, 35 minutes off of your time before you get to continue or something, you know, or...
Yeah.
Something like that.
And, you know, whether you have a time limit in the background, or whether, you know, this is where, you know, one of these games, if you play through it, like when I remember playing through Firewatch and going, you know, oh, this feels like it needs a little bit more stakes.
Yeah.
And I think it's in certain chapters. Like, you can do it in sort of chapters, and that way you could restart this chapter from the start. Because I think you wouldn't want to replay the entire game, but replaying a chapter is a little bit.
Could you screw yourself so badly though that you get to the start of a chapter and
immediately die? No, I don't think.
Or just like you don't have there's not enough time to get through the next 3 chapters because you took so long in chapter 1 or something.
I probably wouldn't limit it to that sort of aspect.
So it's not necessarily then again a literal.
You don't have to have a systems-based thing in the background. It's more of a, like, certain decisions in a chapter will cause, you know.
If you make too many bad decisions, essentially, in a chapter, then you're pretty exposed. I like the idea of... maybe
it doesn't even have to burst. Maybe you can literally take a tumble down a hill, break a leg, and that, you know, means that you can't go any further.
Whether or not it's a systems-based clock in the background, I kind of like the idea that to figure out how much time you might have left or how close you are, you can go up and poke them in the belly. And just, like, they'll yell louder or they'll sound like they're more in pain. The more, you know, the further progressed it is, the closer it is to exploding in there.
That's so scary. Okay, I think we should move on to...
All right. What do you mean? You want to get more than one game done in this half-hour-ish
Yeah, let's not go for that.
All right. It's always fun when we get a number in there.
Mm-hmm.
Even 7.
Ooh, I've got an idea straight away for that, but it's like, that's just kind of fucked. Frustrate Gate.
Frustrate Gate. It's a political scandal.
I mean, straight away, I like the idea of, you know, a mathematician who's actually proved that 7 isn't actually an odd number. It's actually even.
Okay.
It's the only odd number in the world that is actually even, and, you know, they've come up with some formula and it's sort of
mathematical proof.
But it's only that one 7. Like, 17 is not even, it's odd. But 7...
So an odd part... So it just destroys all mathematics, essentially. All integer maths.
No, but if you do 3... you do 7 plus 6...
You get it.
You know, it's still even. Odd. But for some reason...
For some reason, 7 by itself is even.
Yeah.
Okay, but what are the implications of that on the world and the game? Like... Is someone trying to suppress this information because it's going to, like, upend mathematics?
I don't know. I think this is where, like, when I saw gate, I was actually thinking, like, bits, you know, like a AND gate or an OR gate and that sort of stuff, and maybe it's got something to do with logic. That 7's completely fuck up logic.
so, so is this like a puzzle game where somehow you create puzzles that revolve around 7 being an even number? I don't even. My brain does not have the capacity to figure out how that would work.
I just think it can be just a MacGuffin. It can just be a throwaway thing of, like, they're trying to get me because I accidentally proved that 7 is an even number. What? That doesn't work.
I mean, that's it. You could have just a mathematician on the run, essentially, as a bit of a gag, like a bit of a Roger Wilco bumbling adventure protagonist.
Yeah.
That could be fun. Where I went with even 7 was that even the 7th kid or robot or fucking, I don't know, something.
Ooh, don't go through the 7th gate. That leads straight to hell.
Oh, 7th gate. Yeah, like something like... I do like something fantasy-ish or like labyrinthy.
Yeah.
The 7 gates is kind of fun. Maybe the protagonist's name is Even. Because that's just kind of a... Seems like a fantasy thing to do where you just take a word that's not usually a name.
Well, his name is actually Stephen, but everyone just calls him Even.
Right. His name's Even, but when he got transported into this fantasy world, he had a name tag on, but the front of it had got, like, torn off in the tussle in this portal for getting there, because he'd just come from a really terrible, like, work icebreaker event.
He's so frustrated.
Which is, really frustrating. But he doesn't realise it right away, and so everyone just starts calling him Even, and he can't get him to stop. So there's a running gag where he has to keep correcting everyone.
I'm Steve.
I'm Steve. I'm Steve. They all call me Steve. And you just keep calling me Even. It's not... Yeah.
I don't even know why you understand the English.
In this fantasy world. Okay, so Stephen Even shows up here. Does he just... Are the gates there immediately, or is it more he has to, like...
I think it's one of these things of... There are 7 gates in this courtyard where he turns up.
Yep.
He comes through, like, a portal or even one of the gates. Like, walks right through the middle one. Because, you know how odd numbers, they have, like...
an even, or they have
an
the
even
same
on
amount.
each side, and then you got one right in the middle.
Yes.
So there is actually a middle number. And that middle number is 4. So you come out of the 4th gate, and now you've got to...
Right, you got to find a way to open the other 6 or something. Like, this is your setup for the game and the progression through it. I want to come up with what this world is. Got, like, you know how in Alice in Wonderland there's, like, fucking playing card people and the Mad Hatter and whatever, the Cheshire Cat.
And Through the Looking Glass has got all the chess pieces.
Yeah, so is it like Meeple from... Carcassonne or something? Like, is it little or is it just like little, is it Monopoly pieces? You've got the little top hat, the dog, the racing car, the iron. No, we're not going with the new ones, only the
Mr. Moneybags.
Mr. Moneybags is there,
and he doesn't have a monocle because he never did.
Well, he doesn't have a monocle when you first meet him, but then just to, like, Mandela people even further, he pulls one out and puts it on halfway through.
For one scene. There's one pre-rendered cutscene that he has a monocle on, and
then his in-game model doesn't.
They keep on flicking away from him, and he's got a monocle on, and they flick back, and he doesn't have it on. And
then he has it on again, but it's on a different eye. So is this a what is it? Parker, Milton Parker Hasbro, Parker Brothers. Is that Monopoly? Who did Monopoly? Parker Brothers originally, wasn't it?
I think so. Yeah, seems like a Parker Brothers joint.
Are there other games? Then is this like
Stratego, Risk?
Clue. I mean, they've got Clue. Sorry, that's what. There you go. Instead of the meeple, it's the little fucking sorry like tokens or whatever. The like,
yeah,
the big round-headed.
Oh, in the middle of the labyrinth is this huge Pop-a-matic Bubble.
Yes, definitely.
And every now and again, and it's just earthquake and earthquake. 6. It's just yelled out everywhere.
Well, and it changes. Like, I feel like it changes things. Wait, it's not even. Is it even sorry that has the?
No, it was trouble. But
it was trouble. Oh yeah, that's not a. That's a.
I don't give a shit. Like Pop-a-matic Bubble in the middle of a fucking like.
Yeah, that's fine.
You
It's
see
just
it towering like this huge dome, and it's like, what's that? That's the bubble.
That's the Pop-a-matic Bubble.
Pop-a-matic Bubble.
I like that. And then, like, things shift when it pops, right? Depending on the number or something. Different rules come into play.
Yes, definitely.
I like it.
So, I like that, you go around this game board. I'm thinking it's just, relatively simple scenery, but it's like you're going off and trying to find certain objects so that you can unlock these gates. And there's one from the 7 games that is...
Yeah. So you got to find like the community chest and see what's inside.
Yep, you've got to
get out of jail card free out of there or something.
Yep, that's for the Monopoly gate, and that's determined by obviously you've got the racing car token on the door on the gate, and that's how you know that it's for Monopoly.
That it's for Monopoly. You got the sorry.
Sorry, just has the typical token for the sorry people.
You have to actually you find your way in, and it's someone who you wronged in the past, and you have to apologise to them.
Yeah, profusely. Yeah.
And then the gate unlocks.
Yeah, and
Pluto, you have to murder someone.
No, you got to solve the murder because Mr. Body. You got to determine.
Colonel Mustard's there.
Yeah, but it was weird that he murdered Mr. Body in the hotel on Park Lane.
Right, yeah, mix them all up. Well, I mean, it's a high, on Park Lane, that's almost Boardwalk, baby. That's expensive hotel.
And you know what he used? He used the iron from Monopoly. Yeah.
Right. Who is a living creature in this game because they're all living.
And Mr. Body was just a sorry piece.
Stop it! Down, I can't stand. There's blood all over me.
I'm thinking you can pretty much go through either Parker Brothers or Milton Bradley and just. I mean, it's the mixed blend. Who gives a shit?
Yeah, whatever. Who cares? Bring in some fucking Hasbro. You've got Kaplunk. You've got the Kaplunk section. Yeah. You're having to pull out the little, all the sticks.
Yeah, and
except the marbles are screaming as they fall to their death.
Yeah, but the weird thing is, you didn't realise as you're taking out the sticks and they're piling up behind. Then that turns into pickup sticks because that's another game.
Right? Yeah, double it up.
And all of a sudden you realise, I need to be able to get that golden stick that I took out because that's actually
under the
important.
Pile.
It's now under the pile somewhere, and you've got to pick up the sticks without disturbing.
Fucking Mousetrap is a huge part of the game.
Fuck yeah,
yeah.
Mousetrap in 3D, you're walking to the room and it's like.
Yeah,
but it's already set up.
There's the diver up there just shivering. He's like, "Let me get back in the water. I'm cold."
And there's
into the bucket.
Because I'm picturing, the most fun part about Mousetrap is that you just build the trap. So you walk into the room and the whole Rube Goldberg thing is almost set up. Because I almost don't think that building it is part of the game. Because I've got to say, I've never actually played Mousetrap properly.
That could be a game in itself. is building a mousetrap game. I have maybe like once or twice, a very long time ago.
I mean, I played it multiple times, but the difference is I usually just build the entire thing. Fuck the way that you don't play it,
and then just set it off over and over again.
Yeah, and then it's sort of like snakes and ladders. And look, there's another one, snakes and ladders.
Here you go.
Like we're really hitting the hard.
I mean, that's at least 6, so that we can double up on some of them in some of these areas.
And, you know what the last one is? Game of life.
Right. And it actually just quits the game.
And when you go through it, you go back to life. And you go back to Earth. Because it turns out Earth is the game of life.
Earth is the ultimate game, the game of life.
Yes.
And you get back there and you find you've got 2 kids and a huge college debt.
But your kids are just little pink.
No, I like the idea that this whole time you talk like at multiple. You talked about like you've got kids back home. Like you need to get back to your kids
because it's all in first person. You go through that final thing, right. and you then see your character is just that blue peg.
Your character is the blue peg. You go in there, the 2, little pink and blue peg, like run up to you, daddy.
That is so fucking good.
And you look up in the sky and see the big wheel. All right. Should we do one more quick one?
Yeah,
since we have only done a couple.
Crushed orientation.
Invaluable interface. So interface always makes me think of this is some sort of like faux computer operating system or something, or like doing something, where it's essentially like or even like, what was that Valve Portal game that came out just recently that was started off very much like our Game Jam game?
Aperture Labs, wasn't it? Some bullshit like that.
Something like that. Anyway.
I know. I didn't play it.
Some sort of. It feels like some sort of you're logging into something. You're like learning the interface for something.
Yeah.
Right.
And you're continually getting the orientation for.
Well, and then like it's your first day on a new job. You're learning the interface. You're getting oriented. Maybe
is it one of these games where you literally keep on getting promoted and. Like,
yeah, could be.
You
I'm
get
thinking
inadvertently.
So one of yours was crushed, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm sort of I've got an image of like a production line, like conveyors with like big crushers or something for like destroying. I don't know. It's and that you're controlling it in some way or something. But maybe it is still, that's only a part of it, right? Like you start with that, you get your orientation. It's like, like hit the button when the thing's under it because we need to crush all this stuff. That's our job.
See all those aluminum cans? We crush them. That's our job. Yeah. Like, we're part of the recycling plant. Don't just crush the aluminum cans. Do not crush the glass because that takes forever to get out. Like
dangerous. We kind of clean it up. Then we've got to stop the whole system and get it out of the conveyor.
Yeah.
But that's only maybe the start bit of the game because you get promoted. It's like, oh, now you're like up in the top office and you see all the people who are down there on their consoles hitting the crushing button. But now you're getting a new orientation because now it's like put the right people on the right crusher button or like some sort of different thing, but again, it's still all through your little interface.
I mean, what I was actually thinking is because on your first day, you made the least amount of mistakes that anyone has ever made, and you could fail everything.
Only 23 mistakes.
Only 23 mistakes. You got one right. No one's ever done that before. You're management material.
Yeah, totally. It's just like tongue in cheek. This is.
You can fail all 24 and then it just keeps on going till you get one right and then it goes, oh my god. It's like
everyone gasps. Everyone in the room, like, because you've got all the other people and you're just watching them and they're just like, bum, 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 just crushing anything that comes through. So they can't resist. And then you resist one. And, or, let a glass through and crush a can. It's like, oh my God, he did it. How? Promote that man.
And so when you get promoted and you, as you said, you're now in charge of all other people, and you can actually start maybe turning off like the power to these three that you're in charge of.
Right.
Like when a glass comes by, you turn off the power to their buttons so they can't press the button when the glass goes through.
Okay, Okay, I like that. That you're essentially so everyone who's
you're
on
micromanaging them.
Yeah, everyone who's on a button just is constantly pressing the button. You can't stop that. No matter how far you get in this game, when you put a person on a crusher, they can only crush constantly, over and over again. Mm-hmm. Yes, what you've got control of are the conveyors that are sending stuff down there. And I wonder if you get to the point of, like, automation and stuff then as you get even more highly promoted. Or, that you can actually, like, send the glass down a different conveyor that doesn't have someone with a crusher on it, or...
Okay. First level, you're pressing the button to crush things.
Yep.
And you're not continually pressing the button. So the manager above you is going, oh my God, you literally aren't pressing the button continuously. You're waiting till things get in there so they promote you. You're looking after one person then. And you're turning off their system and turning it back on. So you're the micromanager for that person. And then the next thing is you're now in charge of two people because, like, someone else is sick, and now you're in charge of these two that you're having to do. The most that happens in this particular level is that you're in charge of three people then because of just trying to see how you go. Obviously, you can make some mistakes and all this sort of stuff, and then they take you to the next level, and it's like now you can put some logic in place where you can
now you're like automating the conveyors in some way. You've got to, and now it becomes a bit more of a puzzle game as well as being able to turn things on and off.
I like the idea that you're now on the next level up, and you can see the managers that are seeing the like
right, yeah, that are watching the other. Because after you was like figured out how to do that, they've started employing people to just turn off on and off conveyors. Well, maybe that's even part of your automation. Then is like, okay, well, we need a crusher here. And then we need a turn on and offerer over here to make sure that any glass that's on there, goes through between crushers, essentially. Like, they're controlling the speed of it. I do quite like this idea of having to automate a factory in these bizarre ways to, like, get around the just complete inadequacy of all the employees. So, like, maybe, you can't... It's not as simple as you can... You get to the third level, and you can now put in a filterer to, like, separate the glass from the plastic from the aluminium. No, they're always just dumped down the same conveyor. But you've got, like, a guy who will raise his hand when it's glass and, like, put it down when it's a can or something, and you can have someone else looking at that guy.
Telling them, don't do it, don't press it.
Yeah, like something like that. Like, it's all automated, just these ridiculous, like, over the top, stupidly micromanaged ways.
Bureaucracy, it's all about, like, let's throw more people at the solution instead of, like, coming up with a smart solution.
And then they start, it's like, oh, like, our productivity's gone up 500%. We're adding new materials. It's like, now we've got, like, cardboard boxes or something. It's like, we do need to crush them, but they can't end up in the same spot as the plastic because, like, they need to go in the...
in the incinerator after this.
Or whatever.
Or the pulp.
Yeah, like, they need to be pulped, whereas the aluminium needs to be melted. Or, like, it's...
Well, actually, the cardboard goes straight into the incinerator because that's what keeps this place powered. Because... You don't want to send plastic down there because that sends toxic fumes into the CEO's office.
But they never had paper before, so they were just sending the plastic in. That's why they're all so fucking dumb. It's just been these toxic plastic fumes. And they're constantly like stepping on glass because there's just glass all over the floor. So yeah, it's bringing back this company through multiple levels of management from this complete idiocy.
Yep, I love it.
All right, that's fun.
That's a good one to finish with.
I think that's a good one to finish on. So yeah, so we're going to finish it up there. Thank you for joining us this week on Bitstorm. If you would like to find our previous episodes, there's a bunch of them. Go to podchaser.com/bitstorm and check them out there. Shoot us a review. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, and if you like the song that we play at the start and end of each episode, I was going to say at the start and end of each level, at the start and end of each episode, that is Mount Defiance off of the album Containment Failure by the band Kuradust. Just go to kuradust.bandcamp.com and check it out.
Yeah, that's right. So thank you again for joining us this week on Bitstorm. I'm Ben Slinger.
I'm Trevor Scott. And I think I might have appendicitis. It's really, really sore in my lower right hand side.
Poke.